Good morning to our administrators, faculty members of the UE community, especially to our students who are with us in Zoom and in our UE Manila GCCSO YouTube channel. My name is Ms. Lyra Daza, one of the guidance counselors in the Basic Education Department of UE Manila, and I will be your program facilitator for this morning's event entitled The World and I, The Impact of the Environment on Mental Health. This is our opening activity for the third day of our week-long Guidance Week celebration this year. GCCSO Manila goes with the theme Grateful at 16, celebrating wellness and hopeful beginnings. And UE Caloocan celebrates with the theme GCCSO, illuminating the warrior's way. According to the UN Environment Program, taking care of our environment also helps us in keeping a sound mind and a sound body. And with the issues of climate change that we encounter at present, talking about the impact of the environment on our well being is relevant and timely. And so we are very excited to offer you this talk in collaboration with Maynilad Water Academy. Without further ado, let us begin our activity with an opening prayer and the Philippine National Anthem.
A Prayer for Our Earth by Pope Francis. All-powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey towards your infinite delight. We thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace.
Bayang magiliw, kailas ng silanganan, hanap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, buyat ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong buhaw, may nilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdiningning, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
To give us her welcome message, please welcome the Director of the Guidance, Counseling, and Career Services Office, Dr. Maria Leonila V. Urea.
Pagpapala. According to a climate resilience website, you can't hold back the changing climate, but you can implement adaptation measures to become resilient and mitigate risk. As future adults, we would like to impress in your mind and heart to be responsible citizens of your community. Responsible seems to be a big word because you are asked to respond to a situation when climate problems exist. Would you be able to do it? Yes, we believe. Thus, we have programs to assist you to become effective and good stewards of God's creation, which most of us now are not able to do. Please listen well, interact, engage in the talk as a resource speaker would attempt to enlighten you in this issue. Magandang umaga po muli sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Urea, for your encouraging message. At this point, please join me in welcoming the guidance counselor in charge for the College of Computer Studies and Systems and Senior High School STEM and ICT, Ms. Grace Gallardo Gonzalez, to introduce our esteemed resource person.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I hope you are all well. And it is my pleasure to introduce our very special resource speaker for this morning. So Dr. Oliver B. Santana is the current head for academic services of Maynilad Waters Academy and the chair of the Environmental Psychology Special Interest Group of the Psychological Association of the Philippines. He serves as a lecturer at the Department of Psychology in the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and Department of Counseling and Educational Psychology at De La Salle University, Manila. Now, he also served in Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila in various capacities as Vice President for Academic Affairs, OIC Dean of the College of Human Development, and Chair of the Department of Psychology. He obtained both his PhD in Educational Psychology and MA in Counseling at De La Salle University, Manila, and his BS Psychology from Far Eastern University, Manila. Dr. Ollie is an advocate for environmental and water sanitation and hygiene education. He is also a licensed counselor, a licensed psychometrician, and a licensed teacher. So without further ado, let us all welcome Dr. Oliver B. Santana. Sir, you are on mute.
Ginhawang araw because there's this prompt message in the screen that the host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves. Nonetheless, I suppose you can hear me now. Maginhawang araw po sa inyong lahat, and thank you very much for inviting me to share some thoughts about the impact of environment on mental health. I would like to thank Dr. Urea and Ma'am Grace for making this event possible. But before we proceed with our talk, may I ask everyone, saan po kayo ngayon? No? Using your chat box, can you type on your screen where are you located right now? Especially those who are joining us via Zoom. Okay, so we have those coming from UE Manila. And how about po yung others? From Caloocan, okay, from Valenzuela. And I think we're being joined right now by students and faculty, administrators, counselors, no, from both UE Manila and Caloocan City. Okay. So without further ado, may I request to be allowed to share my screen, okay, so I can proceed with the presentation. Without further ado, I give a talk about environmental psychology, climate action, and what we can do, no, with this changing climate. Okay. So may I request for There you go. So the talk is about the impact of climate change to mental health, lessons from environmental psychology. Just a disclaimer, the presentation is for discussion purposes only and does not reflect the views and opinions of my workplace organizations and its affiliates. While I make every effort to ensure that the information I share is accurate, I welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Now let's talk about psychology, which is close to our hearts. We know very well that psychology is the scientific study of human behavior and mental processes. So we know that we study about how people think, their feelings or emotions, our behavior or actions, but we're also interested with the interplay between people and environment. So there is a relationship between the two. And this relationship between people and environment is very interesting. We benefit from our environment in the same way that we hope that the environment benefits from the presence of people. But lo and behold, when we see that there are alterations or changes in the environment, definitely, if there's a major alteration in that environment, we can assume that there are people who are residing or who have who have considered that environment as a place of habitat or a place where they stay. Some evidences of that would be they would change the green space into something gray. From green to gray, meaning what used to be green now because of concrete, no? Because of their desire to make this place a habitable space for them. So they alter the environment. Now, why am I talking about this? And what is its connection with environmental psychology? I think it would be important for us to know first what environmental psychology is all about and what we can learn from this. So environmental psychology is the discipline that studies the interplay between individuals and the built and natural environment. So the built environment is where we make some modifications, alterations. We enhance our surroundings. The natural environment is the pristine environment, no? And without any alteration from mankind. And this definition came from STEG in 2019. But there are also other environments, not only natural and built, but we also have our virtual, which pertains to the network environment. Like who among you, you are so when you are holding your mobile phone or any device for that matter, the moment you are connected with your virtual network or your virtual world, it's so difficult for you to detach or disassociate, no, from your virtual environment. So that is another type of environment. And then there's also what they call the social environment, wherein this is your immediate circle. So this pertains to your family, your friends, your peers, and any interaction with that contributes to your well-being, to your behavior. Okay. Now, environment also is affected by our perception and how we use the space and place. So perception, as we have learned, is the interpretation of what we see in our surroundings. And the space and place will always have meaning to every human being. So space and place can evoke emotions or feelings. For example, there are certain factors that contribute to aesthetic place perception. So like for a particular place could elicit a prior experience, whether this experience is good or bad, that has something to do with how you interacted with that space. A particular space could also be a source of knowledge. A particular space could be influenced by our expectations on how we're going to navigate that space, and also socio-cultural context. And there are also what we call environmental elements that that gives us cues or clues on how we're going to interact with that environment, and also the physical context. Now let's try to discuss this one at a time. So for example, this one, experience. Using your chat box, now let's make it interactive. What kind of experience do you think you'll be able to get from this space? No, it's a playground. Can you type in the chat box? And I think there are also viewers via FB. So you may want to type, no, in your chat box. What kind of experience do we get from this place? So normally they would say that the space perhaps would give us a positive feeling. No? So there they have it, fun and happy experiences. No? There's play and there is interaction. Okay. What else? Yeah, fun and tiring experience. So perhaps after a long day in the playground, trying to recall your childhood experiences, you would realize that after running, climbing, and exerting much effort, this causes a very exhausting experience. Now, next you have knowledge. Now, a place, for example, like a museum, would be a source for construction of new knowledge, sharing of information, or gathering information about a particular place, its history, or its culture, or anything that would deepen or sharpen your skills or even your knowledge of that. And then next, you have expectation. So, for example, in this kind of environment, what kind of expectations do you have? So if you are in that place, can you type in the chat box? Okay, so it's very quiet and calming, no? That's right. And it's a place for relaxation. So let's say you have, your mind is so preoccupied with a lot of things, no? And upon going to this place, you expect that you would experience serenity, tranquility, um, calmness, and whatever worries you have, to be able to get rid of that, or perhaps you might be able to set it aside. That's what we expect in this kind of environment. Now, this one is a marketplace. So this environment allows interaction between and among people. And there's also, it also reflects the way of living, the way of life from among people, no, living in this environment or working in this environment. And then we also have environmental elements. So the screen shows a pedestrian lane in this image, and there are like ads, and there's cues for traffic. So all this would also dictate how people would behave and interact with their environment, whether they're going to stop or go, pause, move, whatever actions they would perform depends on the environmental elements they see in their environment. And then this one, you have the physical context. So from an ordinary garden, so to speak, individuals or people has the capacity to modify it and make it something romantic. Like from like an ordinary landscape, seemingly ordinary landscape, because of the presence of lights and then this dining table with candle lights, etc. So you make it something romantic, or a place where people can talk and engage in a very personal conversation. So those are the types of environments and the characteristics. But there are current challenges and issues between human and its environment. Let's take a look at this. What is the relationship between human behavior and environment? Earlier, I've shown a picture of a playground. And the comments that I got from the participants or from our audience is that an environment such as this one could elicit positive feelings such as playing, feeling fun, or being happy with that. But how about this one? So what comes to your mind when you see this kind of environment? Okay, so there's poverty. What else? Be chaotic. And do you think people would prefer to stay there for a long time? It's crowded, it's dense. So definitely there's this there is this compulsion to leave the place. In as much as you want them to stay there for a long time, they won't do that, because they need air, they need space, they need mobility, no? They need to move. So now, let's make it more interactive further. Uh, I have here a QR code, and please go to menti.com and use the code 88013152. So for those who are joining us via YouTube or Facebook, I suggest you please scan the QR code and use the code 88013152. So I give you 5 seconds to scan. Let's make it interactive, and you will be surprised with how our audience would respond to the changes in their environment. So if you're done, please type an exclamation point. If you have scanned it, okay. I'll stop sharing so we can proceed with the next slide. Okay. So what the question there is, what were the major changes in your environment? I'll present this and okay, I'll copy the link. What were the major changes in your environment? I'll paste the link in the Zoom meeting or Zoom room. Okay, what were the major changes? Let's see. Yes, trees, flood, and heat. Okay, what else? Okay, I'll share my screen. By this time, you can see that these are the common changes that are happening in your environment in the last 5 years. So we have there pollution, less trees, deforestation, okay, less trees on the side of the road, increasing typhoons, high temperature, okay, heat waves, comorbidities, commodities, okay, more commercial spaces. Flooding is becoming more frequent than ever. Okay, so we have deforestation. But at the center of this word cloud, you notice that pollution is very evident. Pollution and deforestation. Okay. Now the next question is okay, pollution at the core. No? Let's try. I'll stop sharing, and let's try the other slide. Okay. Next would be, how do you feel about these changes in your environment? So same code, using the same code, how do you feel about these changes in your environment? Okay. Let's see. How do you feel about these changes in your environment? Okay. So this is very interesting. What I'm getting here is that there are positive and negative, no, but more on negative emotions. So we have sad, feeling worried. Okay. Depressing. Okay. Concerned. So we have already 10 responses from our audience. Okay, I will share my screen. So we are aware of these changes and look at how these changes in our environment affects us. So worried for the future, hopeless, frustrating, puzzled, angry, alarmed, confused, disappointed, helpless, concerned, depressing, mad, stressful. So it's all negative emotions, you know. I was expecting that with the rapid urbanization, there would be some who would respond that there's like a shimmer of hope. But lo and behold, what we're getting here is that it's really more on a concern about what is happening in the environment. Okay, stop sharing. And the next one would be, next is, okay. Of course, when you're aware of these changes, the next would be how do you cope? Considering that you feel sad about it. How do you cope with these changes? Okay, anyone? You're coping? So how do you cope with these changes? Same code, 88013152. Okay, I can see some answers already. So there's one audience who answered positively. Joining movements. How about the others? May I invite you to join? Okay. Plant trees, recycle, removing plastics. Okay, so recycling. Recycling is at the core. Okay. Hobbies, less food waste, planting trees. So this is your way of coping. Okay, I'll show my screen. Okay, I'll stop sharing. So it's really recycling. Anyone else? There. Coping is through recycling. Okay. Now, these issues and challenges would eventually lead to solastalgia. And there are also another challenge, which is gentrification, nature deficiency, and climate change. Of the four bullets that were mentioned, which one rings a bell? Which one are you familiar with? Can you type in the chat box? Solastalgia, gentrification, nature deficiency, or climate change? Which one are you familiar with? Okay, is it solastalgia, gentrification, climate change? Okay. So climate change, we have here, but let's talk about solastalgia first. No? So what is solastalgia? Solastalgia is a feeling of homesickness without ever leaving home caused by emotional or existential distress from environmental change. So meaning to say, like the place that you used to know because of urbanization or rapid development has changed. And the improvements, so to speak, no, whether these are improvements or drastic changes, made you feel like it's no longer the place that you used to know. And you feel distress because of this. And this came from Glenn Albrecht. Type an exclamation point if you can relate with it, with solastalgia. If you can relate, or you type an exclamation point. So for example, your place used to be accessible. Now it becomes inaccessible because of heavy traffic. Or your place used to have green spaces. Now it's all concrete jungle. And you feel affected of this concrete jungle that you have in your environment. Okay, so solastalgia came from these words. No? Solace, derived from solari and solatio, with meanings connected to the alleviation of distress or the provision of comfort or consolation in the face of distressing events. Now, desolation has its origins in solus or dosolare, with meaning connected to abandonment and loneliness. And algia, meaning pain, suffering, or sickness. So we experience pain because we feel disconnected with our old environment because it has changed already. Now, another term that I'd like to share with you is gentrification. So it is a process of urban development in which a city neighborhood develops rapidly over short time and changing from low to high value. So perhaps you've heard from people the value of land in your place has increased because of the developments. However, there's a negative effect wherein those who are residing in that particular area were displaced or disenfranchised due to higher cost of living. So they would rather move out of that environment and build another life, no? Migrate to another area where the cost of living is much lower. So that's what we call gentrification. Now, environment and mental health nexus. So there's another term by Richard Love called NDD, but this is, take note, this is not included in DSM. No? It's still being studied. So we have here nature deficit disorder. And the definition, it describes the human cause of alienation from nature. Among them, diminished use of the senses, attention difficulties, and higher rates of physical and emotional illnesses. So the disorder can be detected in individuals, families, and communities. So the NDD, nature deficit disorder, also posits that direct exposure to nature is essential for childhood development and for physical and emotional health of children and adults. Okay, it's very important. Now, what is the impact of climate change on mental health or on human health? You will see that the effects of climate change will be rising temperatures, more extreme weather, rising sea levels, and increase in carbon footprint, carbon dioxide. Now, the challenge is when this happens, it's not only the environment that is affected, but also the people residing in the area. So for example, those who are living in the coastal area or coastal region would experience increase in rising sea level. So what happens is that they need to relocate to a higher or upper land. so that their lives won't be affected. But not only that, their livelihood is also affected by climate change. And so everything else is connected with this one. I will reshare my screen. No? So you have here, for example, heat-related illness and death, cardiovascular failure, forced migration, civil conflict, mental health impact due to environmental degradation, malnutrition, diarrhea disease, cholera, respiratory allergies, asthma, etc. All these connected with um, climate change. Now, in addition to the current issues and problems, there's also lack of space or inequitable distribution of space. If we want to go to a private, a green space, sometimes it's inaccessible, or more often than not, if you want a good space for you to unwind, to relax, you need to pay for that because these are privately owned spaces. There's also a need to reconnect with nature and the need for space that would allow social interaction or shared safe space. There's also a need to create adaptive strategies to deal with climate change. Take note of the word adaptive because it's already here. We are already experiencing climate change. So we need to adjust. And there's a need for space that are sustainable. Meaning to say, we're not there to add to waste generation, but instead, we need to mitigate, if not to control, the waste that we produce based on our daily activities. Now, what is the relationship between human behavior and environment? I mentioned this already. We can alter our environment. Our environment can influence our mood based on what we have learned. No? Environment can reciprocate human actions, and humans can do good actions for the environment. Now, the theory behind our actions. First, we have the Levitz field theory. Behavior is a function of people and environment. Okay. So what is the function of people and environment? As you can see, when we do alter our environment, there is also a tendency for us to make these adjustments beneficial or harmful to the people around us. For example, we have these festivities, no? We celebrate, and we have balloons. For some people, they are aware of that balloons are harmful, no? to the animals in the ocean. But still, they would use balloons. So ano mangyayari ngayon? They release these balloons in the air, and whatever comes up must go down. And once it's on the ocean, we know that this could affect the habitat of our sea creatures. So nakakasira po siya, nakaka-damage siya ng kapaligiran. What else? By using of styro cups, not only it affects, it's harmful to the ozone layer, but it can also damage or affect our water bodies. So marami tayong ginagawa na could be harmful to our environment. It depends on how we see the relationship or the function between people and the environment. Another theory that explains our actions, whether particularly pro-environment behavior, is that what we call the theory of planned behavior. So for our behavior is influenced by our intention to do it. And this intention is influenced by our attitude, meaning do I like what I'm doing? Social norms, like what others think of this, and self-efficacy, like do I have the right skills to do this? So a particular example of this one, let's say recycling. What would inspire you to recycle your waste? First, you would ask, do I like to recycle? Or do I like to plant trees? Do I like to practice green behavior? And then, yung social norms, you would look at the people around you. Well, not everybody's practicing recycling in my community. Or not everybody is concerned about the environment. So this could moderate, this could influence your ability to perform pro-environment behavior. Next question is, do I have the right skills to do this? So for example, in as much as you want to recycle, but there are no available recycling or waste segregation bins in the community. So that would also affect the pro-environment behavior. So the self-efficacy or the capability to practice recycling as a behavior. Another one is yung sustainability. No? More often than not, we talk about kapwa and kapaligiran and kabuhayan, or people, planet, and profit, no? or prosperity. Pero mas madalas ang nakikita lang natin, we talk about the value of kapwa and kabuhayan. Di bali ng kumita, pero nakaka-distract naman sa kapaligiran. Or di bali ng mag-generate ng maraming plastics, waste, pero ang isang impact nito is how does it affect our environment. So a sustainable means of living is that you take care of not only the people, their livelihood, but we also make sure that the next generation would have a better environment. No? There's a better environment for everyone. So going back to this example, why should I recycle? My friends are not recycling. Why should I? So do we have waste segregation bin? And that can spell the difference whether the individual would practice pro-environment behavior or not. Now, there are researches in environmental psychology, and I hope that through this presentation, you would be encouraged to do more researches about this. For example, the need for restorative process and escape. According to Berman, green spaces near schools promote cognitive development in children, and green use near children's homes promote self-control behaviors. And then from Engelman, residential green space in childhood is associated with lower risk of psychiatric disorders from adolescence into adulthood. And from Mayer in 2009, any exposure to nature in person or via video led to improvements in attention, positive emotions, and the ability to reflect on a life problem. Wow. So imagine that. Oh. The effects were stronger among those who actually spend time outside. So yung if you have like even if it's artificial green space or in artificial nature in your place, it's already beneficial. What more if you immerse yourself in the natural environment? It has positive effects. Okay, so and then there's this one from Corley. Home garden use during COVID-19, there's association with physical and mental well-being in older adults. So yung mga plantito and plantita dyan, there's a study that supports this already. So what happened since then? No? Yung itong mga bagay na to, allow me to share. Actually, this led to me being interested in environmental psychology. And I would like to share this passion with everyone. And I was given a chance to chair the environmental psychology, which is recognized as a special interest group by the Psychological Association of the Philippines in 2020. And from there on, we came up with activities that would generate interest in individual level pro-environmental behavior, opportunities to solve problems involving human environmental interactions, manage, protect, and restore environment that foster sustainable development. And we also encourage our groups to conduct research in the field of environmental psychology. It's really more on knowledge sharing and capacity building. And we came up with, actually it's more on webinars. Like we have here, talk by Dr. Tuason on kalikasan, katinuan, sa panahon ng kalaban, pagpabalik sa tunay na ako, ikaw at tayo. So talk about environmental psychology, building up environmental psychology research in the Philippines, proposal writing basics. I was invited to talk on bolstering climate action with social sciences, climate dialogues, and in partnership with the Social Psychology Division, we had this conversation on EnviPsych, pro-environmental behaviors, and the nexus of nature and mental health. A lot of activities, in fact, happened in the span of from 2020 up to present. Here are some researches about EnviPsych environment, like Filipino psychologists. So moving forward and call to action, I'm amplifying the need for understanding on environmental psychology so we could make an impact on our environment, and hopefully this could help us adapt to climate change. We are aware that there are issues and challenges, and there's a need for more research about this. We need to establish more evidences, and hopefully these evidences could be used by our policymakers to make a difference in our country. Uh, we also need, the practitioners need to apply the new knowledge generated from the researches. And hopefully this could build a community of practice. So when we talk about sustainability, when we itemize sustainable behaviors, at least this comes from evidence-based practice. Now, when we speak of pro-environment behavior, baka na yan, naririnig nyo, ano ba yung ibig sabihin nito? There's this intention, no, oriented definition that we are willing and motivated to make an impact for our environment. Okay, when we say impact, it's more on the positive tone. Whether it's a big or small activity, so long as it affects our environment positively, we can consider that as a pro-environment behavior. So imagine if this ripples, no? Yung akala mo na yung recycling na ginagawa mo walang impact. But if it becomes a habit and you influence other people to do the same, imagine its impact to your community and to your environment. Okay. So here are examples of pro-environment behavior. So we have number one, yung influencer, any public action intended to influence larger population while protecting the environment. We have the avoider, boycotting products that are harmful to the environment and living species, avoiding the purchasing of environmentally harmful packaging. Green consumer, are you the green consumer? Supports purchase of eco-friendly goods and services. You have the green passenger, people who take public transportation, reduce the use of passenger vehicles. They realize the impact of greenhouse gas emissions to the environment. And yan, they want to minimize their carbon footprint. Recycler, individual who made any effort to deal with recycled or recyclable products. So like you repurpose your waste. And then utility saver, individuals who performed any action that wisely use of utilities like energy saver or managing your water footprint, taking responsible use of water. So I think at this point, we have menti.com, no? Use the code 88013152 and let's see, how are you practicing pro-environment behavior? Okay. Can you type? There you go, pro-environment behavior. So are you an influencer? Are you an avoider, green consumer, green passenger, and utility saver? So the code, you go to menti.com and use the code 88013152. So we have influencer, like those who are using social media as a platform, and they share some practical tips to protect the environment. No? So far, what I'm seeing in my screen, there are already 3 members from our audience who are sharing their pro-environment behavior. If there's an avoider, like you avoid products that damage the environment, that would also be counted as pro-environment behavior. Or are you the green consumer? Like you purchase products that are that has packaging that can be recycled. Are you like that? They have the green passenger. The green passenger would take public transportation. Although our public transport could be very challenging nowadays, but at least there's this effort to lessen your contribution in greenhouse emission or carbon footprint. So far we have 8 participants. Again, may I invite you to join us by clicking or going to www.menti.com and use the code 88013152. You're being invited to choose which pro-environment behavior are you practicing at the moment. Okay, so we have majority are utility savers. So, 11, so far we have 11, 12. There's no avoider. It seems that it's really difficult to avoid products that would have impact on our environment. Okay, I share the results so far. We have okay. I'll share my screen. Can you see the presentation there? So you have there the influencer with 2, green consumer 2, green passenger 3, and utility saver 6. That's good, no? Because we are encouraging responsible use of our resources. So for those who participated from our audience, thank you very much. Okay, I'll share my screen. And towards the end of my talk, I want to share about sustainability. And sustainability means we protect the planet, we value people, we also value economic prosperity because prosperity serves as a driver. And we also value partnerships. We forge partnerships that would protect the planet, would protect the interests of the people, and would also recognize prosperity for all. And with that, when we have partnerships, this would eventually lead to peace in communities. So sustainable living means understanding how our lifestyle and choices impact the world around us and finding ways for everyone to live better and lighter. So the psychology of sustainability and sustainable development sees sustainability not only in terms of the ecological and socio-economic environment, but also in terms of improving the quality of life of every human being. So next steps, I invite everyone to practice pro-environment actions. So make it a habit. And also join advocacy groups that protects the environment and promotes adaptive strategies to our changing climate. So I hope in the University of the East, you'll be able to form a club or a group that protects the environment. And if it's already existing, I hope that you'll be able to attract and invite more members to join you in your advocacy and engage in research activities on environmental protection, preservation, conservation, and climate action. And of course, finally, participate in conversations like this one and contribute in generating sustainable and adaptive solutions. So let's find ways to make solutions possible in as much as we can amplify the problem. And sometimes amplifying the problem becomes so scary, but I think we need to shift our mindset from focusing on the problems to highlighting what solutions we can make to address these issues and challenges or these problems. We need more researchers and practitioners in environmental psychology. That's our way forward. And there are opportunities in the academe, like industrial setting. Like in my case, I'm working for a utility company promoting advocacy on responsible water use, water sanitation and hygiene, and community work as well. And we need to partner with other disciplines. So we need to partner with engineers, architects, biologists, and there's also a need to educate the public about environmental education, conservation, and protection. It's a constant effort. So some tips you have there: promote and practice pro-environment behavior, share an interest in environmental psychology, and be an advocate, and read, research, resonate, and repeat. So read, research, resonate. Okay? So that concludes my presentation. We learn, we care, we adapt, and we change. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is the final slide. The last tree has been cut down, the last fish caught, the last river poisoned. Only then we would realize that one cannot eat one. So maraming salamat po. Your feedback matters to us. I'll share this link and hopefully you can give your feedback about this presentation. So thank you very much. That ends my presentation. Maraming salamat po. I hope you learned some information, bits of information.
Yes, thank you very much po, Dr. Santa Ana, no, for sharing with us the things that we should know about how to take good care of our environment. So siguro po sa mga naibahagi po ninyo, sir, what I can relate most to yung nabanggit po ninyo na about sa nostalgia, no? Especially while reminiscing, no, how enjoyable the environment used to be, no, for us, and how we can reconnect to nature more easily. But I also learned, no, from your presentation po that despite these changes, no, importante, sabi nyo nga po, yung mindset. And that we can take steps to contribute for sustainability and to save our environment because it influences the quality of our lives and well-being. Ayan. So maraming salamat po, sir, for sharing your wisdom to us, no, on how we can help save our environment. At this juncture, let us proceed to the open forum where your questions, no, sent via our Zoom chat box and the YouTube live comment section will be addressed. So if you have questions, you may type them already in our chat box and in our YouTube comment section, and then we'll help you relay those questions to our resource person. So our open forum will be facilitated by the guidance counselor in charge for the College of Business Administration and Senior High School ABM and Sports Track, Miss Diane Rodriguez.
Thank you, Ms. Lira. Good morning to our speaker, Dr. Oliver Santa Ana, and to our dear participants here in Zoom and sa ating YouTube channel. So before we proceed with the open forum, I just want to remind everyone that this is a safe space, not to ask your questions and share opinions. Let us respect the confidentiality and integrity of the information we hear and the people who share them. So thank you so much. So here is the chance, no, to ask your questions to Dr. Oliver. So for those in Zoom, you can type your questions on the chat box. And for our viewers on YouTube, you may type your questions on the comment section. And so to give you time, I will ask the questions first, no, from the pre-registration. All right, the first question is, what are the factors of the environment that highly affects the mental health of an individual?
What are the factors of the environment that highly affects? Okay, when we speak of factors, I think we need to qualify what do you mean by factors. So the question reminds me more of like a question for a research or a thesis. When we speak of factors, but we can look at the interplay of the things that we do in our environment. So, for example, when we mindlessly pollute our environment, there is this effect on us. Eventually, this garbage, this waste that we throw in our surroundings, kumbaga babalik din sa atin yan. I remember this advertisement way back in the early 80s. Sinasabi niya, basurang itinapon mo, babalik din sa'yo. In what way? That advertisement was so striking, so poignant na yung baha, lahat ng laman ng baha na yon, puro basura na tinapon lang dun sa paligid. And imagine, that advertisement was in the 80s. And did it make a difference? I suppose for some people, yes. But still, there's this need to hammer that idea in people. Now we have to be responsible in terms of segregating our waste, using products that are harmful to our environment. So by being responsible, we need to look at how can our individual behavior influence our surroundings. Like, are we conscious of our carbon and water footprint? Like, are we using our resources responsibly? Are we mindful of the noise that we make in our environment? Do we recognize every time that we purchase online and there are plastics? What happens to this waste that comes with it? Do we recycle them? Do we repurpose them? So it's really a factor on our disposition or attitude, our capability to practice pro-environment behavior. The factor that comes from our surrounding, our peers, our respective family. Kasi in the family, nobody's doing it. Well, I guess it's high time you as students would influence the people in your community or family to practice waste segregation or zero waste, or practice responsible use of resources. So that would be the factors that we need to consider if we want to help our environment.
Thank you, Doctor. There's a very curious question, sir, kasi nakita siguro nila Maynilad. So there's a question, sir. How can water help improve our mental health?
Well, we know very well that water, there's what we call the blue space. Diba? Pag tumingin ka sa, na-highlight kasi kanina yung green space. Pero pag nasa ocean ka, or not ocean, bodies of water, napapansin nyo, it has a calming effect on the body. Parang you feel like you're being rejuvenated. Whatever dirt you have, it's being washed away. So that, yung sensation that you experience in the presence of water could also already influence your mood, your mood for that particular day. So yun yung titignan natin. Not to mention that yung water, consumption of water is also good for our body. Dagdag ko pa yan. When you drink adequate amount of water that our body needs, that is good for your circulation, body circulation, blood circulation. So ito yung mga pwede nating tingnan.
Thank you, sir. We have some questions here in the chat box, sir. So a question from Michael. What is the best way to help the environment as a student?
The best way is for us to be mindful of our actions. Okay, what do I mean by being mindful of our actions? Every step that we make, when we, let's say, use waste-generating products, you have to reflect, would this have an impact on my environment, on our environment? Because if it would have a negative impact, then we need to change our gears and perhaps try to omit that bad practice in our behavior. So, halimbawa yung paggamit mo ng disposables instead of, you can use recyclables instead of disposables. Kasi when you dispose your waste, like single-use plastic, every time you use it, it adds onto the trash, it adds onto the waste in our environment. So yung pag-avoid mo lang ng single-use plastic is already making a difference in our environment. There are lots of ways. So instead of focusing on the best, try to focus on what are the many ways on how I can make a difference for our environment. Okay? Again, I'd like to focus on what are the multiple ways instead of just focusing on the best way, kasi ang dami naman natin pwedeng gawin based on the pro-environment behaviors that I've shared here with you. Okay?
Thank you, sir. So there's another question here in our chat box, sir. So from Nabaira, she said that your talk was really nice and she would like to ask.
Thank you, Nabaira.
Oftentimes po kasi yung mga eco-friendly options for consumers, they are on the pricier side po. Mas madalas na mas mahal po talaga na maging isang green consumer, like purchasing big bottles instead of sachets. How can we and the other people po na hindi rin po ganoon kaluwag sa buhay na mag-live more on being eco-friendly?
It's really, I agree with Nabaira, na it's really challenging to become a green consumer because of these big bulk purchases. But we focus on parang baby steps muna. Kasi I think there are actions being taken by the government, no, to promote eco-friendly behavior or be eco-friendly products. Meron namang move towards that. So on our end, ano yung pwede nating gawin? Like using green bags, eco bags when we shop, or avoiding products that would parang mga sachet. Yan. Kasi medyo ano yan eh. Although merong mga products na nakasachet, but I think there's also some products that would require you or would invite you rather to return their used containers, sachets, and they would replace it, no, or they would incentivize it with a corresponding value. So meron mga ganung mga program ang LGUs in partnership with certain brands. I'm just not familiar with what particular brand it is. Pero I think yan binabalik and they reuse these containers, these sachets. So be aware of the programs and activities of in your respective LGUs and communities. Meron sila niyan na produkto. So para yung guilt, minsan nandun yung guilt na, pag ginamit ko to, baka mas makakontribute ako. So ipunin mo siya, tapos tingnan mo yung programa na yung parang balik container yun eh. Ibabalik mo yung produkto, yung pinagamitan ng produkto sa kanila, and they would replace it with something valuable. Yung iba yata may peso, value pa yun eh. Tinatawag na pera sa basura. Yung iba, ginugupit-gupit nila yung sachet, ginagamit sa plush toys, or ginagamit sa unan or something else. No? Maraming, or ginagawang bag. Nire-repurpose yung waste.
Thank you, sir.
I hope yun pwede yung pag-isipan na pwedeng gawin.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Actually, my mom, sir, does that yung mga sachets and then yung mga bags ng mga corn chips or potato chips, kinakat and then ginagawang plushies or pillows.
Diba? Oh, yun.
Yes.
Nagagawa siyang plushie, nagagawang pillows, madaming pwedeng gawin. Yung mga damit, instead of making them rags, yung iba, yung old clothes nyo, pwede nyo gawing bags. Pwede nyo gawing neck pillow. Pero karamihan na nakikita kong product, mga bags talaga, ginagawa nilang bag. So environmentally friendly, you're able to repurpose yung old clothes, old stuff na meron kayo.
Thank you, sir. We have another question po from the YouTube naman. So
All
from
right.
Sir Dexter, how can we harness the potential of our urban poor as partners in environmental protection? Take a look at our esteros, although we have some success stories on some urban communities.
Napakagandang question yan, no? Yung how do we harness? I think malaki ang role ng academic community through your programs, let's say sa NSTP or environmental programs. When we share the responsibility, the burden becomes lighter. It becomes more manageable. Ang nangyayari kasi parang iniisip ng minsan, no, this is my observation. Akala nila parang it's only the public sector that needs to work on maintaining the estero. But actually, those who are residing near these bodies of water has a responsibility to assume or to play. So kailangan maging katuwang natin sila. Kaya nga yan din yung ibang, may mga bantay ilog tayo, bantay estero. Pero yan din yung common complaint nila na yung iba nagtatapon ng basura. So anong pwede natin gawin? We can educate them. We can come up with programs to help them become part of protecting our environment. Other than education kasi, perhaps we can invite them to be part of livelihoods or like yung social entrepreneurship programs na makikita nila na yung actions nila would be rewarded, can be incentivized through the social entrepreneurship programs. So baka yon yung sa College of Business Administration, baka pwede ninyong paggawa ng programa yon. Paano natin mahihikayat yung mga nasa kapaligiran, the urban poor, to join social entrepreneurship programs that would protect and conserve the environment. Isa yon sa pwedeng sana na tingnan ng feasibility study.
Thank you, sir. We have another question po from YouTube. How can technology be used to improve the environment? Since the general view on it right now is that technology is limiting our nature.
Napaka broad ng technology question. And I think I'm not in the position to answer that. Pero ang nakikita ko na nagiging advantage ng technology, for example, yung mga geographic information system, mga GIS, yung mapping, nakakatulong. Baka din pwedeng mag-create ng certain apps that would monitor our behavior. For example, yung monitoring of our actions that are pro-environment or actions that would have a negative impact on the environment, baka pwedeng makapag-develop ng ganong klase ng technology or ganong klaseng application. Kasi pag sinabi mong technology, ang lawak-lawak nga eh. Kasi pwede kang makapag-develop ng technology that would monitor pollution, amount of pollution in the bodies of water, or technology that would monitor carbon. I think it's already existing. Pero yung challenge is how do we make it affordable? Diba? Yun yung isang kailangan nating tingnan. Affordability, accessibility of these technologies. Yun yung mas sana ma-develop. And yung use. Sino ang magiging end users nito?
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. No, so that's all the questions that we have for our open forum. Thank you so much, Dr. Oliver, for answering the questions of our enthusiastic students. So, guys, thank you for your questions. Back to you, Ms. Lira.
Maraming salamat, Ms. Dayan.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Dayan, and of course to Doc Oli for enthusiastically answering the questions from our participants in Zoom and in YouTube Live. Ayan, so to show our appreciation for his insightful talk, please allow us to present this e-certificate to Dr. Santa Ana, and please allow me to read the citations. University of the East Manila Campus Guidance Counseling and Career Services Office. This certificate of recognition is hereby given to Dr. Oliver Santa Ana for being the resource speaker in the GCCSO webinar, The World and I, the Impact of the Environment on Our Mental Health. This is during the Guidance Week Celebration 2022, given this 23rd day of November via Zoom and YouTube Live. Signed by the Director of GCCSO, Dr. Maria Leonila V. Urea. Thank you very much, sir. Ayan. And as our program comes, ayan, thank you very much po ulit. As our program comes to an end, please allow me to share with you a few announcements. First, please help us improve our guidance program and activities through your feedback. The QR code for our activity evaluation is now flashed on the screen, so you may scan it to access the form. The link of which will also be shared in a little while in our Zoom chat box and YouTube Live comment section. Please share with us your feedback today as the form will be open until 5 p.m. Second, we wish to invite you to our upcoming activities today and for the 4th and 5th day of our Guidance Week celebration for both UE Manila and UE Caloocan. Later this afternoon, on the previous slide, you can see our PubMats for the day 3 activities for UE Manila and UE Caloocan. GCCSO. So for UE Manila GCCSO, we will be having the Hope and Wellness webinar for college students at 2 p.m. today via Google Meet. We also will be having the Mental Toughness Talk for senior high school student athletes at 3:40. Meanwhile, our grade 11 students from UE Caloocan will be having their Emotional Intelligence Quotient test this afternoon. Then tomorrow, for UE Manila, we will be having our Parent Education and Support Program with the title #MeTime Wellness and Mindful Pause for Parents. It will be at 10 o'clock in the morning. So please help us invite your parents and guardians to join us and have a mindful pause and break from work. Also at 2 p.m. tomorrow, we will be having a wellness activity for our UE faculty and employees with the title Mind, Body, Heart Wellness for Warriors. Yes, yeah, thank you very much po. Meanwhile, for UE Caloocan, we will be having the virtual career fair. It will be at 9:30 in the morning. As well as yung Follow Your Dreams career group guidance for Kinder 1 and 2. And then the emotional intelligence questionnaire test administration will also continue tomorrow. And for the last day of our week-long guidance celebration for UE Manila, we will be having the webinar on career planning, work ethics, attitude, and productivity for our graduating students and students enrolled in their on-the-job training. It will be at 10 o'clock in the morning via Zoom. And then at 2 p.m., we will be having the second part of our Hope and Wellness program for college students. And then for you, Caloocan, we will be having the webinar entitled Into a Drug-Free and Fulfilling Life, Drug Abuse Prevention and Control. And then we also have an assertiveness skills training for warriors at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, as well as Groovy, a group facilitation workshop for peer facilitators. As well as Paglingap, Importansya ng Kalusugang Pangkaisipan, and the testing activities for the students will also proceed on the last day of our Guidance Week celebration. For the complete details of our Guidance Week activities, the registration links, and to receive the Google Meet and Zoom links for our activities, please visit the official Facebook page of UE Manila, UE Manila and UE Caloocan GCCSO. And for your questions, for your concerns and interest in our services, please feel free to send us a message. You may reach us through email, guidance@ue.edu.ph for UE Manila, and gco.cal@ue.edu.ph for Caloocan. And as mentioned a while ago, our official Facebook pages, UE at UE Manila GCCSO and at UE Caloocan GCCSO. I hope you all learned something from our activity this morning that we can live by and practice as a way of paying attention to our environmental awareness and well-being. And so before we end today's program, we are all enjoined to sing our UE hymn.
Pamantasan ka naming mahal, ilaw sa kainglan. Buhay, lakas, lunong, damay, pamantasan ka ng bayan. Ang pangalan mo ay malhati at sandigan ka ng pamantasan ng silangan, pamantasan ka naming mahal, pamantasan ka naming mahal, ilaw sa karimlan. Buhay, lakas, lunong, damay, pamantasan ka ng bayan. Ang pangalan mo ay luwalhati at sandigan ka ng lahi. Pamantasan ng silangan, pamantasan ka naming mahal.
Thank you very much once again to our participants in our YouTube Live. And as we end the live stream, Please take care, and we are looking forward to seeing you all around in our campus soon. For our participants in Zoom, please stay for a while for a photo opportunity. Thank you once again.